Think of it this way. For us, the term lift up your head probably has gotten replaced with a more modern keep your chin up. In the ancient world, subjects would bow before the monarch as he judged their case, and if the king sided with you, he would vindicate you by lifting up your head. That's what the Lord will do for those who trust in him. So David trusts God to be righteous in his attributes of he's kind, he's good, he's protective. Secondly, David trusted God to be righteous in his actions. What is it that gave David such confidence in what the Lord would do? Well, David based his confidence in what the Lord had already done for him. It's like David had a faith folder tucked away in a filing cabinet in his mind, and he's ready to open it up and remind himself of the faithfulness of God in his life. In verse 4, David says, God always hears his prayers, right? Verse 4, I cried to the Lord with my voice, and he heard me from his holy hill. Listen, God hears our prayers. He hears them when they're words of quiet contemplation. He hears them when they're shouts of panicked exclamation. Notice how he prayed. He says, I cried unto the Lord. This may or may not indicate that there were tears involved, but this word cried tells us for sure that David cried out. He shouted. Listen, there is a time for quiet contemplative prayer, but there is also a time for crying out to the Lord. And so feel free to pray with emotion and understand your prayer is going to mean something to God if it means something to you. And notice where the Lord answers David from. He answers from his holy hill. This is the place of the Lord's sanctuary. This is the representative of the dwelling presence of God with his people. Jerusalem was on this hill that was called a holy hill, and I think the meaning is that David knows, look, I have been expelled from the throne, but nobody has moved God, right? God hasn't been taken anywhere. Even as David is on the run, God reigns on the throne. Not only did God hear his prayers, but God sustains his life. Verse 3, or Psalm 3 is called a mourning psalm because of verse 5, where he says, I lay down and slept. I awoke, for the Lord sustained me. With all of the trouble David was facing, you would think he would be up pacing all night long. But David was able to lay down and rest. So that is something, laying down to rest is something you can only do when you have a sense of security and confidence. Think of it this way. Earlier in his own life, David had taught King Saul a lesson that sleeping on the enemy was a foolish choice, right? He had snuck into Saul's camp. He had snipped a part of Saul's robe while he was asleep. Now, David is the one on the run. David is the one who is sleeping. And in this vulnerable position, David's enemies could have launched a sneak attack. And doubtless, had Absalom been able to do it, he would not have stopped where David stopped. David took a piece of Saul's robe. Absalom would have been glad to take David's head. But David lay down and went to sleep and woke up the next morning, he says, and he knows why he was able to do that. He says it is the Lord who sustained him.